Sean Couturier missed practice today, but it's no big deal. Carter Hart missed practice today, and it might be a slightly bigger deal. I'm Charlie O'Connor with PHLY Sports, and I'm here with your post-practice Flyers notes, giving you the rundown on what you may have missed today at Friday's practice, just after their 4-3 shootout victory over the division rival Washington Capitals last night at the Wells Fargo Center. So to give you the rundown on the quick updates, Sean Couturier did miss practice today. However, it looks like just a maintenance day. We have heard multiple times this season they're just going to be a little bit more careful with Couturier. He just turned 31. He's obviously coming off 2 back surgeries, so no reason to push him, especially if he's a little tired. They've been running him pretty heavy over these last few weeks. He's getting over 20 minutes a night. Very much looks like the Olle Couturier. So if he's feeling a little groggy, a little banged up, no reason not to sit him. Carter Hart, on the other hand, he was a surprise scratch last night. They actually recalled Felix Sandstrom from the minors to serve as backup. Carter Hart is sick. He was not on the ice today, and we heard from John Tortorella after practice that he does not expect Carter Hart will be fully recovered in enough time to dress for Saturday's game against the Detroit Red Wings, also at home. So because of that, Sandstrom was sent back down today because he was emergency recalled. Expect him to come back up on Saturday, be the backup, and I would expect Sam Ersson to again get the start. It would be Ersson's 3rd straight start, and he looked quite good last night. Obviously, was the hero in the shootout. He's now 3-0 in shootouts, so Ersson may just have a skill in that area. Had another strong game, I would say, and he continues to establish himself as a legitimate NHL goalie. Not expecting him to take Carter Hart's job or anything, but Ersson has clearly earned the confidence of the coaches. He definitely has the confidence of his teammates, and he's looking pretty good. So beyond that, we did have a couple interesting conversations with Torts after the practice when we spoke with him in the media availability room. Namely, a little bit of talk about the fans. I definitely think the environment, the atmosphere at the Wells Fargo Center for the Capitals game last night was strong. It does seem like the crowd is getting slightly bigger. It seems like the general vibes are a bit better, but it's still not full. We're still not talking about a full rockin' house the way it was, 15 years ago when the Flyers were one of the hottest tickets in town. Tortorella basically said what he said the whole time. We make our own bed. And this is all residual distrust from the fact that for the last 3 years, the Flyers have not been a very good hockey team. Just because they're playing well right now, just because they have points in each of their last 7 games, does not mean that every fan is going to jump back on board. I equate it to the Phillies of last year. It's hard for people to remember this because now everyone's on board with the Phillies, but people really didn't get fully on board with the Phillies until last playoff run. All throughout the 2022 season, even as the team was battling for a playoff spot, people didn't trust them. People thought they were going to ultimately choke away a playoff spot like they had done so many other times over the last 4 or 5 years. And they thought if they made the playoffs, they were going to embarrass themselves. It wasn't until they won a round, then won another round, that people started falling in love really with this Phillies team. Tortorella basically said the same thing. He said, we have to make the playoffs. We have to win a playoff round or 2 before people will really get on board. And he understands that. So he knows that it's going to take time to win back the fans that have left the Flyers for dead a little bit, that just believe that they are sheer incompetence personified. But he believes they'll get there. He believes they have the right people. He believes they have some of the right players already, and hopefully they'll get more and more as time goes by. A couple other updates from Tortorella. Olle Lycksell is still here. I kind of expected that after the road trip, he might be sent back to Lehigh Valley. Obviously, he had excelled in Lehigh Valley for quite a while, scored a ton of goals for them down there. Came up for the road trip, did get in 1 game, but didn't play that much. That was the game where Ryan Poehling was a surprise scratch because he was sick. So it was clear that he was just there as an in case of emergency type of guy. I thought that he might just be the 13th forward for the road trip, but came out today for practice. He's still with the club. But Tortorella did say that there isn't any plan to get him in games, which, to be frank, I don't fully understand. I get it if John Tortorella looks at it and says, the team's playing really well. I don't want to maneuver the lineup just to get Olle Lycksell in games. I get that. I understand that the coach wants to reward the guys who are playing well, and most of the guys on the team are playing quite well right now. But I do question, why would you keep Lycksell up if you don't have a plan to get him in games? I know he's not a young prospect anymore, but he's still a prospect. And I do wonder if part of this is John Tortorella didn't like what he saw in Lycksell last season when he was up briefly, and just kind of has in his head that Lycksell's not going to be part of this. And I don't know if Lycksell's going to be part of this or not. I do like his skill set. I worry a little bit that he might be something of a tweener, but I'd like to see him get a look at some point. And it just doesn't seem like John Tortorella has much of an interest in giving him a look until he absolutely has to do so. So it does appear that Olle Lycksell does still face an uphill battle to prove that he deserves to be part of the next great Flyers team. Finally, I'm working on a piece right now on Joel Farabee. He obviously scored a big goal in the third period last night. His ice time still pretty low. He's actually below 15 minutes a night this season, which is over 2 minutes fewer than he had last season when he was playing a lot worse. We talked to John Tortorella after the game last night. He said, look, a lot of that is because Farabee isn't getting power play time, isn't been getting penalty kill time. Last year he got both. That's cutting down on some of his minutes. So I asked Tortorella today, I said, look, that may be an explanation, but what does Joel Farabee have to do to get that power play time? Because right now they're using Scott Laughton, who's struggling mightily over the last couple of weeks, particularly offensively, and they're using Cam Atkinson, who hasn't scored in weeks, and his main job is to be a goal scorer. So why isn't Joel Farabee getting power play time that those guys are getting, essentially? Basically, what Tortorella said, his answer was that Rocky Thompson, the power play coach, had specifically asked Tortorella to stop juggling the units, that he wanted to give these groups of five more time together to try to work through their issues, develop some chemistry, and hopefully fix the power play. So far, that hasn't worked. The power play is still pretty bad. So John Tortorella did say, I think you're going to see Beezer out there on the power play sometime soon. So keep an eye out for that. Don't know if it'll happen on Saturday, but it does seem like that's an idea that's percolating. He praised Farabee for his recent production, his offensive play at 5-on-5. So I do think that's going to happen. I just think it should happen sooner rather than later. And for the Flyers, it may happen a little bit later than maybe Farabee deserves. But at some point, I would expect Joel Farabee will get back onto the power play in favor of one of those struggling players. That's pretty much all I have for my post-practice notes, but thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and keep an eye out for our post-game show after Saturday night's game against the Detroit Red Wings. Thanks, everybody.
We all silly like the mayor.